Now it's time to join your next set of blocks. Your first job is to lay them out in the order that you would like to join them. When you've decided that, put them all up out of the way and keeping them in the order you want them. Make sure that you've got the front of the block facing you and work 3 trebles into your bottom corner space. Now we're going to start this off with a standing treble. So that's yarn over, hold it with your finger, into the chain space and yarn over. So if you've got 3 loops on your hook, then take 2 off and another 2 off. Work another 2 trebles into the same space. Now we don't have gaps between our stitches on this block, so we need to miss 1, 2 stitches and work 3 into the next one. And we do that again twice more. Then we work a regular corner into the corner chain space, remembering to use 2 chain as this is the joining row, not the granny square. So we're doing 3 trebles, two chain, and 3 trebles. Now, as we worked along the bottom, we need to do this up the side. Miss 2 stitches and work 3 trebles into the next stitch. And we do that 3 times along the side. Then we work 3 trebles and 2 chain into the corner chain space. And that is the first block joined. Now we have to be a little bit more careful with our joining on this one if you want your blocks up a certain way. If you don't mind which way they go, you don't have to be so careful. But I want mine done in a certain way. So this is the way my next block is going to go. So now I need to come back down here. So it's much easier to turn that one that way and that one that way. And then I can work 3 trebles into the first corner chain space. Okay, and then we need to slip stitch into the gap opposite. At this point it's much easier to actually pick it up like this so that you can work into this one and the other one at the same time. Miss 2 and work 3 trebles in that one. And slip stitch into the gap opposite. Again, miss 2 and work 3 trebles in the next one. And slip stitch to the gap opposite. And finally, work 3 trebles into your corner chain space. And work into the chain space opposite plus one more chain. Then carry on along the bottom and this side exactly the same way as we did on the first block. And there you go, that's our first two blocks joined. As you can see, we've come across the bottom, up the side, we've joined on that side and then across the bottom and up the side. So now we need to go for our next block, which is going to go there. Again, to make this easier, we're going to turn this way because we need to be working into that side there. I finished with 3 trebles and 2 chain in that corner. And now I'm going to carry on the corner with 3 trebles into that chain space. And slip stitch to the one opposite. This is exactly the same as the first block, so I'm just going to speed this up a bit and show you the next corner. Now we're going to go all the way across. The bits in the middle are done exactly the same as for down the sides, with one small difference. We finish off this corner in the same as we would a regular corner with 3 trebles, 2 chain and 3 trebles. Carry on along the top in exactly the same way as we worked the other sides. So you miss 2 stitches along the side, and work 3 treble into the third one. For your final corner, we need to finish this corner off now. We're going to do 3 trebles. As we already have 2 chain here, one for that corner and one for that corner, we just need 1 more chain. Slip stitch into that 2 chain space, work another chain and then work 3 trebles into that corner there. Then carry on across the top to the next corner. And again, 1 chain, slip stitch into the 2 chain space, 1 chain and work 3 trebles in that corner. And finally work 3 trebles and 2 chain into your final chain space. There's your first 3 blocks joined. And don't worry if they're all slightly different sizes, they're all different stitches, they're all done in different ways, and your tension may alter for the different sizes. If you're not happy that some of them, for example this one, is a lot bigger than the others, you can always redo it in a smaller tension or exchange it for a different block. You may find that this one is also just a little bit bigger than the others, but again, don't worry about it too much. Now we're going to work the next 3 row of blocks along here. So what we need to do is sort out the first block, which is this one here. This time we're going to turn the whole thing upside down. Again, this is just about making it easier to work in. I'm just going to redo those 2 chains because I've pulled them out of shape, and then work 3 trebles into this corner chain space. And slip stitch into that one. Now I'm going to join the rest of this block in exactly the same way as I did these, and then work to the opposite corner in exactly the same way as we did for these blocks here. So on the corner you work a slip stitch into the chain space opposite, and then 1 more chain, and then carry on up the side in the same way as we've done for the other blocks. And we finish off with 3 trebles and 2 chain. This is as far as we've got. Now again, we want to change this around to this way. Now we need our next block. We're going to put that one there like that. If you are doing the blocks the same that I've done them and in the same order, you'll be able to follow this exactly. If not, you will just have to go through the instructions and find out. But joining this block is more like joining the regular granny squares that we did on the other side. What we're doing is 3 trebles into that corner chain space. Slip stitch into that one, and now I'm picking a whole lot up because it's easier to work this way. 3 trebles into the next gap on a small block, and slip stitch into the chain space opposite. Now this time we've got a lot of spaces to go into here. We're going to go into the gap between the 2 blocks. We're working over the joining slip stitch and using that as a gap. Slip stitch into the gap opposite, 3 trebles into the next gap, and slip stitch into the gap opposite, then 3 trebles into the corner chain space. Now this time we have 2 blocks to join on to. This is why we use 2 chains in the corners of the continuous joining. So we're slip stitching into that block. Then we're taking it all out and folding it this way and slip stitching into the chain space of the block in the first row. Then carrying on with 3 trebles into the same corner on this one, and again slip stitch opposite. So joining the bottom here is exactly the same as joining the side. So we have 3 trebles in that corner, slip stitch to that corner, work 1 more chain, and then work up the side to that corner. And we have finished with 3 trebles and 2 chain in the corner. Now again, I'm going to turn this around this way to make it easier to join. And the next block we're doing is this one. I'm putting this one in this way. 3 trebles into the corner chain space over here. And slip stitch into there. And again, it's just much easier to pick the whole thing up rather than trying to do it flat on the table. Three trebles into your corner chain space, slip stitch into the bottom chain space of the block on the side, turn it around and fold it the other way, and then slip stitch into the bottom block, and 3 more into the same corner. And carry along the edge the same as we have for the other blocks. So this corner, 3 in the corner, 1 in the chain space and 1 chain, and then we're going all the way up there and around to this one. So I'll show you this bit again. So 3 trebles into there, one chain, slip stitch into that 2 chain space and 1 chain, and 3 trebles into the next corner. So as this one is your yo-yos, we're just working into the gaps, the same as for a regular granny square, and over the join for the centre set of 3. Okay, and 1 chain, slip stitch into your 2 chain space, another chain, and 3 trebles into this block. And finishing with 3 trebles and 2 chain into the corner chain space. And there you have 2 rows joined. The next job is to do the 3rd row. Now we're ready for the 3rd row. I've turned what I've done so far upside down and put the first block of the 3rd row in place. This means I can now work 3 treble into the corner chain space. And slip stitch to the chain space opposite. Again, it's much easier just to pick it all up than work flat on the table. As this one is just regular double crochets around the edge, as some of the blocks that we've already done are, you know exactly what to do here, so just carry on with your first block as you join the first block of the 2nd row. Okay, as we're going to be working into the top of this side now, I'm turning this around so that it's the right way. This is the block I want to join next. Now, it's slightly different to the others, but we have a chain space in the corner there, we have a gap there, a chain space in the middle, another gap, and then again our corner chain space. So treat those exactly the same as you would for your regular granny square, and that should fit in that hole quite nicely. And again, when we come to the corner here, make sure that you work 1 slip stitch into the block to the side, turn it around, and 1 slip stitch in the block that's underneath. Then finish off your corner. Again, we need it this way up because we're going to be working that edge next. Put your block in the way that you want it. Although this is treble crochet along the edge, you treat these exactly the same way as you would the double crochets on quite a few of the other blocks. We will be working into the top of them rather than in between them. So chain space as normal with 3 trebles, then a slip stitch, then miss 2 and work 3 trebles, and carry on around like that. And that's our last block joined in. Now this time we need to do the top the same as we did for both rows 1 and 2, and then carry on around down the side, and that is worked exactly the same way as the top. So there we are, 3 treble back in the very first chain space, 2 chain and slip stitch to your first double crochet. Turn, so this is the same as we do on the granny squares, and slip stitch into the chain space. Work 1, 2, 3 chains, and then 2 trebles in the corner chain space.